There is a quiet valley in the hills of New York State called Sleepy Hollow. It's a mysterious place with many stories. But the most famous one is about a man who rides a horse at night. People say this man was a soldier who died in the American Revolutionary War. His head was shot off, and now, every night, he rises from his grave, gets on his horse, and rides through the valley looking for his lost head. Not far from Sleepy Hollow is a small village called Tarrytown. Long ago, Dutch settlers built this village. It even had a small school where a man named Ichabod Crane worked as a teacher. Ichabod was a strange-looking man. He was tall and very skinny, with long arms and a small, flat head. His big ears, large green eyes, and long nose made him look a bit like a bird called a crane. Ichabod didn't earn much money as a teacher. Even though he was skinny, he ate a lot. To make extra money, he taught young people to sing after church on Sundays. One of his students was Katrina van Tassel, the only daughter of a wealthy Dutch farmer. Katrina was very beautiful, like a ripe red apple. Ichabod was quickly smitten with her. He also couldn't help but notice her father's large farm, full of apple trees, wheat fields, and many animals. Ichabod dreamed of marrying Katrina and becoming the owner of all that wealth. However, Ichabod had competition. A strong and popular young man named Brom van Brunt also liked Katrina. Brom was admired by all the local girls. He was big, muscular, and always cheerful. Brom was a great horse rider, and he often led his friends on wild rides through the village, shouting and laughing late at night. Ichabod knew he couldn't compete with Brom in strength or bravery, so he tried a different approach. He visited Katrina's farm often, pretending to help her with her singing lessons. The people in town began to think that Ichabod might win Katrina's heart because Brom stopped visiting her on Sunday nights. One autumn evening, Ichabod was invited to a big party at the Van Tassel farm. He borrowed an old horse from a farmer and dressed in his best clothes. The party was lively, with music, dancing, and tables full of delicious food. Brom arrived on his fast horse, Daredevil, and all the girls smiled when they saw him. But Brom watched with jealousy as Ichabod danced with Katrina. Later, the guests sat down to tell stories. They talked about battles from the Revolutionary War and the spooky legends of Sleepy Hollow. The scariest story was about the Headless Horseman, who was said to ride through the valley at night. One farmer told how he once raced the headless rider on horseback, but the ghost disappeared when they reached the edge of the valley. When the party ended, Ichabod said goodbye to Katrina. To his surprise, she didn't seem interested in him anymore. He left the farm feeling sad, wondering if she had only used him to make Brom jealous. As Ichabod rode home through the dark woods, He felt uneasy. The forest was silent, and shadows moved in the moonlight. Suddenly, he heard a strange noise. His heart pounded as he saw a dark figure standing near the trees. It was big and black, like a monster. Ichabod's voice shook as he called out, "Who are you?" There was no answer. His horse started to move, and the dark figure followed. It moved alongside him, keeping pace. Ichabod's fear grew as he realized the figure was a rider on a horse. But the rider's head was not on his shoulders, it was resting in his hands. Terrified, Ichabod urged his horse to run as fast as it could. The rider chased him through the valley, getting closer and closer. Ichabod saw the church bridge ahead. He remembered the stories that said the Headless Horseman could not cross the bridge. "If I can get to the bridge, I'll be safe," he thought. Ichabod's horse galloped onto the bridge, and he thought he had escaped. But then the Headless Horseman threw his head at Ichabod. It struck him in the face and knocked him off his horse. The next day, Ichabod's horse was found grazing peacefully, but Ichabod was nowhere to be seen. People searched the valley and found his hat near the bridge. Next to it was a smashed pumpkin. No one ever saw Ichabod again. Some people believed the Headless Horseman had taken him away. Others thought Ichabod left town because Katrina had rejected him. Many years later, a farmer said he saw Ichabod alive in New York City, working as a lawyer. As for Katrina, she married Brom Van Brunt. At their wedding, Brom laughed whenever anyone mentioned Ichabod or the pumpkin. Some wondered if Brom had played a trick on Ichabod that night, but no one ever knew for sure.